I'm a load. We're live. Okay. Assalamualaikum everyone. Today we are conducting the event of Introduction to AWS Amplify, and with me we have our co-host. I'm hosting Shahriar Shatil, the founding captain of AWS Cloud Club at KUET, and with me we have Rohim Batsha, who is our co-captain at AWS Cloud Club at KUET. Welcome, Rohim, on your first event. How are you feeling?
I feel really great. It's my first time here. I'm really so excited about the session. I hope I can share something important and learn as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And everyone will be pleased to know that Rohim is also working as a software developer at the moment, and he's very experienced in the web development sector. So hopefully, we're going to have a nice event. So obviously, the topic of today's event is AWS Amplify, which is a very well-known web development tool in the world of cloud and architecture. And first of all, we're going to understand why AWS Amplify and the different kinds of ways we can develop a web application. So the first and foremost, we have the monolithic application. Basically, monolithic applications are applications that have been built very simply with a front end, back end, and database. Nothing else. There is no API involved, or there is no third-party application involved in this process. Usually, the first when internet first launched, most of the websites used to be built as a monolithic applications, but as time progressed, applications became bigger and bigger, and they needed more databases and more data to consume, as well as they needed better data storage services and also better front end UIs and back end systems. So then came microservices. Basically, it connects the backend and front end with multiple microservices that interact with each other. Think of it as a restaurant. You've seen it, like the servers act as the APIs, and then they connect with the backend, the kitchen, and they go to the each table and ask the customers what they need. So it's kind of like that. But there was also a problem with microservices, is that we were using too many microservices in some companies. So then finally came the serverless architecture. The serverless architecture is most probably the simplest way you can develop a website today in this day and age. So basically, a serverless architecture gives you the API gateway to your external database service that you can access through that API gateway, and you will have to do almost no work to set up the backend of the server of your application, because the cloud environment will take care of it for you in a serverless environment. So that's why serverless makes it much easier in today's age to develop a web application, and that is what AWS Amplify is. And now Badsha will tell you more about what AWS Amplify is and more of its uses. And then we will go into some in-depth explanations of some of the AWS architecture. So Badsha, take it away.
Thank you so much, Bhai. So we will first start with the obvious question, which is what is Amplify or AWS Amplify? So AWS Amplify is basically everything you need to build web and mobile applications. It's very easy to start and easy to scale. So we will start by taking an example. So consider an application that needs database, authentication, storage, a real-time activity and data sources, design system, and after we have done completing all those long steps, the most important questions, which is scalability. So we can think of a classic approach. So a classic approach would be to configure the database yourself and creating custom authentication, spending hours and hours on deciding which storage provider to use, and using third-party packages for real-time activity, and throwing this away to create your own design system. And after all this, the question of scalability still goes unanswered as the users increase. So what's the magic spell for all in one? AWS Amplify, of course. So using AWS Amplify, ideas can be converted into applications in just about hours. It provides ways to build user interfaces, authentication, real-time data sources, one click and one push deployment, scaling to millions of users without any headache, and TypeScript for type safety and outstanding developer experience. And all those things without any kind of prior cloud expertise. So now we can talk about the versatility it supports. So basically, it supports most of the important and popular user interfaces libraries. For example, React, Angular, and Vue. We can also build native application. For example, we can use Java to make Android applications or Kotlin, and we can also use Swift to make applications for iOS. Furthermore, it can also support cross-platform applications, and we can build those applications using Flutter and React Native. So now we can talk about what we can build with AWS Amplify. So first of all, SSR web applications. So we can basically deploy and host server-side render applications with Next.js and Next for improved performance and search engine optimization. So implementing server-side applications with data and middleware protected authentication for routes with Amplify's JavaScript library. Then we can also build single page web applications and static websites. So deploying your app front end to the globally distributed AWS content delivery network with automated CI/CD across hundreds of edge locations. We can also add full stack logic with authentication, authorization, storage, and data without any kind of headache, or we don't have to write a lot of codes ourselves. Then we can, as we have mentioned before, we can build native applications with AWS Amplify. So we can build native iOS and Android apps in Swift, Kotlin, or Java with authentication, data storage, and push notifications using Amplify's front-end libraries and back-end provisioning. And finally, cross-platform applications. So we can build cross-platform Flutter and React native apps with capabilities like user authentication, data, storage using Amplify's libraries and backend resources. So hope you found the session insightful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Batsha. So next we will learn about the serverless architecture. So basically how serverless worked in a broader way. So in case of web and mobile, both types of clients, we have an authentication service and we have an external database that we spoke of before. Basically, external database gives access to our data, basically the user data as well as the user uploaded images and other information. And the authentication service helps us to authenticate the user. And the API gateway serves as the functions for our application, web client or mobile client. Basically, the API gateway provides us all of the code functions that we can execute on the database to find and to operate CRUD operations or other services on the database. So this is a broader part of the authentication process. Basically, we will have social providers that will give us the user pools. Basically, user pools are profiles of users or list of users, and identity pools, which are external identity pools, like for example, email authentications, and social providers only provide us with Google, Facebook, and other social authentication mechanisms that help us to identify and authenticate a user when they're logging into the application. Now, what else can we do with AWS Amplify? So AWS Amplify can help you manage users and app content using Amplify Admin UI, which basically serves as an admin dashboard for your web application or mobile application hosted outside the AWS console. Now, we can also invite team members and provide content managers with access to the Amplify Admin UI. We can manage users, create or edit users and groups, and update them based on our needs. And we can also manage the content, the stuff we upload, basically pictures and other files that we upload into our web application. Basically, it serves as a one platform for managing all of the web application needs. Now, this This is Brigade. Brigade is a company that uses AWS Cloud under the hood. So Brigade basically helps us to create new front-end UI. Basically, it's a software company. They create new AWS web applications for their clients, but they use AWS Amplify under the hood. So why do they use it, and why is it so useful? Why is everyone going towards AWS Amplify? So we need AWS Amplify because it simplifies the entire process of of developing a web app UI. So let's go through this web app infrastructure for a moment. So at first we have the Figma design, which starts around the below here. So the Figma design is the fundamental design, the UI design of the entire web app or entire app, mobile app. Now, then we go to the AWS Amplify Studio, which helps us to build the React UI components. So this in whole is the front-end UI development. Basically, we're developing the UI in React. We can also develop it in other frameworks like Angular or Vue. They would basically work in the same way. And after the front-end UI is developed, we have the React web app ready. And then the React web app connects to the AWS Amplify hosting. But that's not all. We haven't actually configured the backend yet. So for the backend part of it, we have a Amplify managed backend that serves as the serverless backend for your web application or mobile application. So you do not need to set this code up in your UI components when you are developing. Instead, you can connect them later on in a cloud environment. So what does AWS Amplify Managed Backend include? It includes AWS AppSync, AWS DynamoDB, and Stream, and AWS Lambda. So we will not be going in depth into each of these, but I will be explaining them in short terms, each of them. And we also have the Amazon Simple Storage Service. So I believe in our past event, we actually explained something about the Amazon Simple Storage Service. Basically, Amazon Simple Storage Service is the most basic form of storage service, or the most basic form of hosting service in the cloud. It is the first service in the AWS services. Basically, Amazon S3 enables you to store your images somewhere else. Let's say you want to upload an image to your social media website. So Amazon S3 helps you to create a bucket, and inside that bucket, from the logo you can guess that a bucket is basically a data storage service. So you can put your images or other files in a data storage service and then access them through a link that is created when that Amazon Simple Storage Service or Amazon S3 service was created. And then you can access those files from your React web application through those links. So it just makes it easier to access those images, because if you are connecting from local device or any other database services, and if the image is somehow damaged, it will be problematic. So Amazon S3 gives you a link instead that you can use to access those images or files that you have stored. And for AWS AppSync basically helps us to sync the database with the mobile application. If we're developing a mobile application, so that's when we would need Amazon AWS AppSync. And Amazon DynamoDB is basically just a database. So it's nothing complex. It's like MongoDB or Postgres or any other database services. So DynamoDB helps you to store all of your data in the database. And AWS Lambda is also our web development service. Basically, we would be going in depth into each of these services in our future events. But for this event specifically, we would be only discussing it, how they are working with AWS Amplify. So now we have the backend and we have the front-end components. And for the front-end components, we see that we have also used React UI. And for AWS Amplify hosting is basically the hosting service for the React web application or your mobile application, whatever you've developed. And from that hosting, we can simply create our hosting web link or our domain link that our users can access and that the client can use the front end to discover our app and to use it in their needs. So that's the basic architecture for a web app. Now, this is not the only thing that you can do, obviously. So I'm gonna just go back into some of the beginning stuff in the serverless area and explain how that actually worked to create our web app in here. So basically, we see a mobile client and a web client. Okay, just a moment. Okay, Bacha, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, yeah, sure. Can hear.
Acha, okay. Okay, let me explain this part first, and then you can go in depth a little more into your slides as well. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about is that the serverless architecture and how it enabled the Brigade company to build their web applications. So first and foremost, we would go to the authentication service, and for authentication, we can obviously use that I have shown that we can use Google, Facebook, and other authentication methods. And I think personally that social providers are a lot better as compared to other identity pools for authentication. But if we're using emails, I have used email authentications, but I think they are more suited if we are using company software like insider software. For consumer software, I think it's a better option to have social providers for authentication, obviously. Because people would be wanting to log in as easily as possible, and so that would be better for them to actually be able to do it easier, to have easier social logins. And for the external database, as I mentioned before, the external database is basically these guys, the Amazon DynamoDB and AWS Simple Storage Service. These services act as the outside or external databases that we can use to access our files that we have stored on the database. And let's say there is an API gateway. So what part of this is the API gateway, you may ask? So basically, the API gateway should be here inside, like between Amplify managed backend and our React web app, because the API is what connects our React web app to the Amplify managed backend. So the Amplify managed backend can be easily accessed, so we don't have to do extensive coding. Or even if you are a beginner level programmer, you could also be building a web app in using AWS Amplify hosting. And I actually do have one thing to say about it to the audience, if you whenever anyone's watching. So basically, if you like this event and if you think that this event is a great start for web development, or if you learned something, we do have an offer that we from AWS Cloud Club at KUET would be wanting to organize a AWS Amplify bootcamp. A bootcamp is basically where you will develop the participants will develop their own web application using AWS Amplify. So anyone watching this, if you want to learn and develop your own web application, in a lab environment, in an actual development environment where developers develop their websites. If you want to do that, you can comment below that you would be interested. Just comment interested, and we would organize a boot camp later on this year that would help you to learn more about web development as well as AWS Amplify, and you would be able to host your own web application, perhaps maybe even your own portfolio website on AWS Amplify. That would basically boost your confidence as well as boost your experience in web development and in Amplify sector. So now I would ask Badsha to speak something about his experience that he's worked in web development, as well as how he thinks that AWS Amplify could help in those environments to develop better web applications. So Badsha, if you would.
Indeed. Thank you so much. So,
Yeah,
in the past, I have worked with a lot of people who are interested in serverless applications. Uh, the first reason being is how easy it is. So,
yeah,
basically, you first of all, whenever a developer has to develop something, he has to be very efficient because he has to maybe develop for a company, or maybe he has a client and maybe very tight deadline, right? So
yeah.
the first thinking that comes into the developer's mind is how easily I can build something very efficient and robust, right? So that's why the first step we have to take is to consider in what way we want to go. So serverless has become really popular in recent times. So I have worked with serverless, and it has benefited me a lot. So let me talk a bit about it. So first of all, well, let's give the example with AWS Amplify. So AWS Amplify, can you share my slide, please?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So here we can see what AWS Amplify provides. So the first point we can see here is uh, the ways to build UI. So AWS Amplify provides a lot of pre-built components that we can just come and use without any kind of coding by ourselves, right? So especially the authentication sections, we can just basically write just one line of code to implement the authentication. It's how easy it is. and and obviously the second thing that we need to consider is the deployment, because it comes with the scalability, right? So as the users increases, the need um, the need of different resources like database and the capability of server, those become very crucial, right? So we really have to think about this when we're deploying the applications. Also, as a developer, the developer experience is also a crucial thing. So AWS Amplify provides TypeScript for better type safety. So whenever, for example, the problem with JavaScript is that it doesn't provide native type safety. So under the hood, AWS Amplify uses TypeScript to make the life of developers really easy.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Yeah, that's actually great to hear. Because yeah, it really does make developers' life easier, and as well as it makes developing software so much easier as compared to traditional methods. Because when we're developing traditionally, we would want to make the development process as easy as possible for the
exactly.
developer, because we want the customer to have the best experience as well, but we also want the developer to have a good experience. And AWS Amplify basically does that. It helps developers to have a better experience when they are developing the software. So it really does make things a lot better when we are trying to do things faster. So yeah, Bacha, if you have anything other to say on the SSR web applications, you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So one problem with React is that we cannot really provide a good uh, search engine optimization. So for that,
Mm.
Next.js exactly solves that problem. And guess what? We can also implement any kind of web applications with Next.js right by using AWS Amplify. So as you can see, I have already mentioned that we can deploy and host server-side rendered applications, and that really makes search engine optimizations a breeze. And then we have seen single page applications. So some people just do not care about search engine optimization, maybe because they are just making a product, a single product for a company. So in that case, maybe search engine optimization is not a big deal. So for them, AWS Amplify also has a good choice. So we can just make single page applications as well. And here I just had the versatility slide open. So some people just do not like to use complex user interface libraries like React, Angular, and Vue. So if you think that you are not one of them, you can just use vanilla JavaScript to implement at AWS Amplify. How interesting is that, right? So just you can just come up and with any kind of expertise, with basically zero cloud expertise, and you don't have to be a wizard of different kind of user interface libraries, right? To use AWS Amplify, right? And also the some people do not like the idea of cross platform applications. They just want a native feel, right? They just want
Yeah,
to make application only or solely for Android, or let's say iOS, right? In that case, AWS Amplify has also got you covered. So it supports native libraries and SDKs that you can easily use to make any kind of applications for a specific platform. So
exactly.
that's all I wanted to share about
Okay,
this
okay.
break.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Bacha. And now I actually have something extra, that is a another type of framework we can use. That is the Angular framework. So I'm just gonna share the slide here. Yeah. So this was the first one, and yeah, this is it. So as you can see, this was the first slide that I showed with the React web application. And as Baksha said earlier, that React does have some issues with, better capability and better SEO can be implemented into React. So we could use some other web frameworks like Angular, Vue, and Next.js. And now I just want to show a simple service with Angular. So this is from a company called Workfall, and they have done an Angular authentication application using AWS Amplify. So it is a very simple application, very simple authentication, and very simple implementation of the project. It's not a bigger project like this one per se, but it's still a good example to show beginners how it actually works. For example, we can see that we have Amazon Cognito, which basically authenticates the user through the web browser when the user is trying to log in. And then we have the HTML, CSS, TypeScript website, the Angular application, and we are managing the hosting and deployment through AWS Amplify. So this is a very oversimplified version, I would say. So it's not a very complex version, but it's still enough to understand how AWS Amplify actually works with our web applications, as well as other types of frameworks as well. And it is very easy to understand that AWS Amplify is compatible with any framework you choose. It does not matter if you are a seasoned JavaScript developer, or if you are using TypeScript, if you are using Next.js, maybe you have learned Next.js more. It does not matter. For example, I most of the time work in React or JavaScript or TypeScript. I have not used Next.js that much as compared to other languages, but Bacha is very experienced in Next.js. So he's obviously most of the time he's developing in Next.js and other newer frameworks. So it helps everyone and it integrates everyone into this community, into this environment where everyone can develop and really have a good time developing, because it's so much easier to develop with AWS Amplify. So I hope that everyone can learn AWS Amplify and amplify their own web development skills through this process. And yeah, obviously, and if anyone is interested in a AWS Amplify bootcamp, I would suggest you to comment down below that you would be interested. And also, if you like this event, leave a feedback in the feedback form. It's in the description below, and it's also in the comment box. So also we have a meetup group. So if you want to be part of our AWS Cloud Club at KUET, I would highly encourage you to be, okay, let me share the screen. Okay, just a moment. So basically what I want to say is, if you want to be part of this club, this event, you can do so by becoming a member at our club through the meetup group. I'm gonna share the link. I have actually shared the link in the comment section as well as the description section. So yeah, you guys can definitely check it out. Okay, let me just share it in the with a screen share. And also I would want to talk about some other achievements of the club as well, as we are here. Okay. Okay, so this is AWS Cloud Club at KUET, and the image is from AWS Cloud Day back in 2023, which we were glad to be part of. And right now we are at 135 members. That's a lot of members, and within a short span of time. uh, and there's actually members joining from time to time, every week, and I see the notifications and I feel very happy that people are finding out about this club. And I would want more people to come to the club and experience and to learn more about web development as a whole, and also learn more about Amplify. So obviously it's a good place to start if you're starting out as a beginner programmer or beginner level developer. But also I would encourage you to learn a lot more about web development yourself in your free time if you're interested. So that's all I wanted to say for now. And obviously I hope everyone watching this will have a good time. We are live right now, but the video will be shared with our participants or with our club members. So I hope that people learn something from this event. And also thanks to Rohim for being in the event and hosting the event with me. And it was very nice to have you here. And hopefully we'll have more events in the future, more better events that
Please,
that
please.
help us, as well as that can help others to learn about web development. So yeah, so with that, I would like to end today's event for now. And Bacha, I hope you had a great time as well. So yeah, we will meet again in the future. And until then, yeah, it's always day one in Amazon, and it's always day one when you're learning. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again. Adios. Bye bye. Okay. Bye.